In 1981, one of the most dangerous men on the planet made a decision that had absolutely nothing to do with drugs, money, or power. He bought 4 hippos. Yes, hippos. Pablo Escobar, the man who ran 80% of the cocaine entering into the United States, who assassinated judges and politicians, who almost toppled an entire government, flew 4 hippos from Dallas, Texas, to his private ranch in Colombia. You're probably thinking, why? Well, he did it because he could, because he had an exotic zoo, and because nobody was going to tell him no. He was killed in 1993. His empire collapsed. His cartel was dismantled. His money was seized. His ranch, the same place he built churches and soccer fields to polish his image, was turned into a theme park by the very government that he tried to destroy. But the hippos kept going. 4 became 16, 16 became 40, 40 became over 100. Today in 2026, there are roughly 200 hippos roaming South America river systems. And Colombia just announced it's spending $2 million to deal with them. This week, right now, 33 years after the man who brought them there was buried, Escobar spent his whole life trying to control his legacy. His image, the story, the fear, the reputation, he calculated every move. And the thing that outlived him most, you guessed it, those 4 hippos that he probably never thought twice about. That's the thing about legacy. You don't get to decide what sticks. Tonight we're talking about legacy. What it actually is, what it isn't, and the uncomfortable truth that most of us have already set things in motion we don't even know about yet. Think about it. What are your hippos? What have you already put out into the world? A habit, an example, a word, a decision that's still moving on its own right now, long after you moved on from it? That's tonight. Welcome to Earned Air. If this is your first time here, I'm Matt, this is Kevin, and this is Vito.
Hello.
So what do you think of that?
Wow. Serious stuff there. I mean, that's an unbelievable topic that you're taking a look at with so many different things. As I like to call it, living between the dash, right? That's what we all try to strive for is, I mean, passing stuff on and what you really want to be known for. And man, there's so many directions I think I could go on that, just life experiences and trying to leave an impression on whether it's one person or a million people. I mean, that's a tough one. So
Yeah, to me, it's a tough one. I mean, it's like I'm going through generational gap.
mhm.
What my parents did, what I'm doing, I have no idea what my kids are doing.
Mhm.
So it's like, how do you do that? How would you leave a profound legacy, or as we said it in the past, passing the torch?
Mhm. Well,
How do you put that in motion? Because you think about it. Here, my parents basically was all Italians.
mhm.
Everything and anything had to revolve around the Italian culture.
Mhm.
Okay, now here's me. Okay, them married once, stayed married. Here's me, married the second time. So I was married to Italian girl, American Italian. Now I'm with the Puerto Rican girl. So now culture shift. It's like,
Mhm.
then there's my son, has a kid, not married, not around, flew the coop. So how do you deal with the legacy, passing the torch? And it's like chaotic, and plus I adopted a girl, from my first marriage. She's out of, another state, and
Mhm.
I don't hear from her. So it's like, how do you go to pass a legacy?
Well, I think what I was trying to say here in the opening was there's things that we're doing now in our life that we really don't know what the legacy is going to be. Like when he bought those 4 hippos, now he bought 4 hippos. One was a male and he had 3 females. And he had no idea that those 4 hippos, 33 years later, is going to cause such a problem in Colombia. For one, they're not native to Colombia.
Yeah.
They're from Africa.
I was curious about that. Like,
Yeah,
how do they sustain?
Well, they sustain over there because one, it's a
Heat.
tropical environment.
Yeah.
They have so many, rivers and other things over there that they're thriving over there. But the hippos are so dirty that they're, as they multiply, they're shitting in the water. And they're causing a big disturbance in the ecosystem over there when it comes to fishing and some of the other animals that are native to Colombia.
Oh.
But the point behind that is that, when he got those hippos, he had no idea that 33 years later it's going to cause such a problem. So I just, if you're interested in that kind of thing, head over to YouTube, search it. There's some things on there. Fox Nation has a whole hour-and-a-half episode on it. It's pretty neat to watch and see the damage that these hippos are doing over there, because there was a hippo that they did kill. I think it was in 2009, Pepe. And
got names?
They took, it was the hippo's name was Pepe, and they had some hunters come over. I believe it was from Africa. They hunted it, and there was like 15 of them. They all took a picture around it, and you know how that goes. So now there's legislation over there. They can't kill these hippos, and because that would be the easiest thing to do, is just go kill them. But they're becoming dangerous to the population. They're very, they come out at night, and it's pretty messy over there. But the point being is, like, the legacy that had. So
I mean, I could see what he did. It's a remembrance of him. It's talked about now, 33 years later. Yeah, this is what he caused. Now, he did it in the spirit of a good thing to bring something unique and odd to Colombia, but in all seriousness, it is causing havoc and chaos. As far as us 3 here, as far as that type of scenario for us, I mean, we have to really dig deep in our.
Well, I think we can dig deep, but I think the biggest legacy, we're all 3 parents, and we've all had parents, grandparents, whatever it is, but it has to be one of those things too. I think the biggest legacy, and I don't think we think about it enough, is the fact that we want our children to do better than us, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's always been the legacy. I know my parents wanted me to do better than what they did. I know I want my son to do better than what my wife and I are doing. Hopefully he just keeps on carrying that. And I think that legacy comes with a lot of different things, right? I think morals and values become a big part. I think learning from failures on what not to do, to pass that on generation to generation, being able to, I mean, I know you have to let people kind of figure things out for themselves, but at the same time, I mean, can you imagine if we didn't get any advice from our parents, or remember when we defied our parents and said, "Hey, I'm not going to do this," and they let us do it so we could find out what not to do, right? And I think that has a lot to do with, that plays into legacy and how you want to leave your legacy. And legacy is what? A remembrance, right?
Yeah.
What do you want to be remembered for? Like I said, what do you want to be remembered for between that dash, between those 2 numbers?
So here's a question. As someone who knew you well had to describe the legacy you're leaving right now, today, what do you think they'd actually say? Not what you hope, but what they would actually say.
I would say, for me, that was a good-hearted person. That I go out of my way for people. I think it's basically the way you were raised. Like, there's a big gap here between us, and I look at my father, and World War II vet. I mean, not on this side, the other side.
Mhm.
He fought under the Italian army, in North Africa. So, how do you compare to that? I mean, the stories my father,
So he's left a legacy on you then.
yeah. So, stories my dad, like he was a traveler. I mean, they were in Libya, Tunisia, his family. I mean, they were in North Africa, during the war. His whole family got shipped back, not him or his oldest brother. They were drafted in the Italian army. So he did that. After the war, I mean, he was a POW under the British. On top of that, I mean, you could write a movie on his life, and then, he did contraband. Can you imagine, like, here's your father telling you, hey, to survive, I did contraband, selling sugar and cigarettes on the black market. This is stuff you see in a movie. Like, I remember seeing this kind of stuff in the old black and white movies, like the old, actors like Edward G. Robinson and James Cagney, those kind of people, Cary Grant, those kind of people. You see those things going on in the movies. And here I got a father that's living it. I mean, then he went to France and he's working in the coal mines, talking a mile down in the earth in France. On top of that, he was a railroad conductor in France, and he put his brother in his place to give him his job. Then from there, goes back, helps out the family, then gets on a boat and go clear across the world into Venezuela, and was there for 5 years.
So your father's left a heck of a mark on you.
Oh man, you can't compare to that. How could you even come close to something like that? You can't.
Mhm.
And then he lands here. Well, it was like back in those days, you have to write in to be accepted, through the immigrations. So he put his name through for the United States and Canada. Well, whoever called first, that's where he was going. Well, United States called first. So then the whole family came. You know what I mean? But then he ends up, now, mind you, you have this elaborate background.
Mhm.
And then he lands in working at Republic Still. Go figure. I mean, it's like you did all this amazing stuff. And then, I look at my dad, I said, man, you did all this stuff. What possessed you to come here?
So Vito, he talked more about his dad leaving a legacy on him. The question was, if someone were to say what legacy you're leaving right now, what would you hope they would say?
Mentor. That I was a good mentor. I mean, coming out ever since I was probably, I don't know, 13, 14 years old, I have a younger brother, and I know it was difficult then to see it, but now, as we got older, my dad was a coach. I was a coach. My brother is a coach now. But it was just more than just coaching. It was mentorships, and there's a lot of different things that I mentored, a lot of different, I guess, age groups and categories. I mean, with coaching, obviously it's, being able to take, young kids from, 5 years old all the way up to 18 years old, and not only teach them about what they're playing or what sport they're playing, but also trying to take a hold and developing them into men, taking young boys and developing into men, and teaching them that, life is a lot bigger than a sport or maybe an instrument or, whatever their field they're choosing. I've had all kinds of different topics here, but mentorship, I think, is one I feel like I'm in the right thing right now with, because I still talk to, former players, and I talk to, college athletes now. I talk to high school kids right now that aren't even my kids. I talk to college kids that I've coached, and you know, just seeing people or kids progress, you know, knowing that they could look back and say the popular phrase, "Remember when."
Yeah, but see, you followed, like, to me, hearing you talk, the explanation here, correct me if I'm wrong. Like you said, your dad was a mentor, he was a coach.
But my mom was too,
And
and
your mom,
my
see,
parents were
that's what I'm
too.
saying. It's just like you had that role model.
Right.
I mean, like I explained, for me, it's like, okay, I think kind-hearted was like, for me, like, I gotta go out of my way. But, like to follow, like I couldn't follow him. I couldn't follow that lifestyle.
No.
There's no way.
Well, you don't have to.
No, I'm not saying I had to, but you kind of get influenced by
Your values.
your parents,
your upbringing,
your
and your
upbringing,
values.
stuff like that. So when you had to hear that, and you're kind of like, you're trying to expect yourself to do something grand.
Well, you don't
Yeah.
have to do anything.
No,
You
but
just
that's
kinda-
what I'm saying. You knowing that, and then you just like you say, my dad was a coach, so you end up being a coach. Your brother ends up being a coach. Sooner or later, you got a son, he'll
But-
probably be a coach.
But it was my choice.
Right.
It was my choice. I didn't have to coach anybody. I didn't have to give time to
No,
anybody.
you didn't.
I didn't have to go, out and teach kids anything like that. But the things that were instilled to us, for me, it's taking tools or the values that you were growing with, and it's deciding how you're going to use those tools in life, right? People can take tools and use them in a variety of different ways. They can take their values and their beliefs and use them in different ways. They can use it to influence. They can use it to teach. They can use it to better themselves.
But ask yourself the question, what made you want to be a coach?
What made me want to be a coach?
Yeah.
I wanted to be a coach.
Why?
Why? Because it was my passion. It was my passion to be able to teach what I have learned and pass it on in my own manner, not the way my dad did it, because there's a lot of things that my dad did that I still didn't do. I still don't agree with to this day.
Yeah.
I took bits and pieces of my mom and dad and learned to combine it so I could create my own.
So when you say create your own, did you have in the back of your mind like this is the legacy I want to carry on?
I didn't really think of it as a legacy till probably about 2 years ago when I actually got out of it.
Mm.
And I mean, I'm not saying that I quit coaching, because you still coach the game of life,
Right.
right? And there's a lot of analogies and similes and metaphors that I would use to a player now that, I could sit there and talk and say, hey, I know you're going through a tough time, but this is what you can use to get out of that funk, or this is what, the game of life is trying to teach you right now. So, I still want to be remembered as that, as a good mentor. And that's what I try to every day. I don't do it just with kids. I try to do it at work by setting examples. You want to set the examples of, trying to be a leader, right? That's what mentorship kind of, dives into. And you have to have that kind of a quality, I guess, in my opinion, to mentor somebody, because nobody's going to follow a mentor if that mentor has not gone through those things themselves. Does that make sense?
No, that's true.
Well,
I can see that.
I'm going to say from the mentor standpoint, mentors turn into a legacy, because I'm going to go ahead and just tell who had a lasting impression on me, and he's dead today and doesn't know it. But when I got into high school, I went and took shop class, and his name was Adolph Kroll, and I was a punk, believe it or not, right? I was a punk in school, and we just didn't hit it off, and we butted heads every single day. But this guy could have given up on me.
He was
But he
what, a
didn't.
teacher?
He was a teacher.
Oh,
he was a woodshop teacher,
Mm.
and he didn't give up on me. I think he coached track. I'm not sure, but I think he did. But so he knew I was playing baseball, and we just didn't like each other. But he didn't give up on me. That first year he stayed in my back pocket and took me through the class, and just as bad as I was, he didn't dismiss me or have me removed from his class because it was an elective. I didn't have to be in there. I chose to take that class, and he had me removed, but he didn't. So I get through that first year, and then we get into my sophomore year, and I think it was Woods 2. And
No.
It was kind of, I took it as a screw off class, right? Like, I'm not going to go take algebra or anything. I'm going to go take Woods class anyway. But, that's where I gained a lot of skills today that I, able to apply for myself. But I show up.
Nice big shed in the back.
Yeah, I know. All right. I learned that. I owe all that to him. But I showed up, come in there the second year, and he looks at me and he goes, "Really? You took my class again?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I liked it in here." So we started to get along. And by the time I got to my senior year, through my sophomore year, my junior, senior year, he really helped me out through the ups and downs that I had when it came to baseball. And then when I graduated, I moved out, obviously, of my dad's house, moved in with my grandparents. And next door to my grandparents, there was a few people that came over, and they were taking estimates, and they were going to do this addition to my neighbor's house. Now, my grandparents had a pool, so I'm in the backyard, I'm in the pool, and all of a sudden, I hear his voice. And I'm like, I know that voice. So I go over to the fence, I look over, and it's Mr. Crawl. And I'm like, "Hey, Mr. Crawl, what's going on?" He says, "Oh, we're over here bidding this project. Me and Mr. Angel, we're going to go ahead and put this project on." So I was able to, converse with him for 6-8 weeks or whatever while they did this addition on my grandparents' neighbor's house. But he just, to me, to this day, if there's one person that really had a good legacy for me, and he's gone today, he's passed away, and he never knew it. But I think about a lot of things in life that I learned through him when it started off really, really bad.
Now I get to understand where you're coming from now. I had a guy like that, or when I used to work for J.C. Penney's company, the guy's named John Crisson. He was my boss. The guy was smart as a whip. And, my dad did, the, hey, save your money, put it in the bank, make a money market certificate. Well, which I did, This guy was on a different level. He called me in the office and told me, "Hey, are you doing any investing?" What? Now, mind you, I'm in my 20s. The only thing I was thinking about is girls. Going out, having fun, what you do when you're in 20s. That's what was on my mind. I was thinking about it. He sat me down. He said, "Listen, and he was showing me the numbers. I mean, he was crunching the numbers. He go, "You want to learn? I'll show it to you. You have to put the effort." And it was impressive. And I did. I thank him today for that, because that got me where I'm at today.
And he has no idea that you feel that about him. Yeah.
No. I'm always kind of wondering if he's still alive. I really like to go see this guy, see if he's still around, because I tossed that idea to go pay him a visit, because I tell you one thing, this guy, I kid you not, he taught me about investing, how to make money on a different level, plus he was super nice to me. I mean, like, he knew there's mistakes I made, I don't want to tell online here because it's like some stuff that shouldn't be said online. But I learned from my mistakes. But this guy, like you said to that guy on you, he never gave up on me. He always tried to push me. And, I started as a dude that was just working. This was like, I got laid off from the mill. I went there to work, to make extra money. So that's what I was there for. I didn't plan on sticking around, but my layoff got to be longer and longer. And then, so I stuck it out. And then he made me climb up the ranks. I was manager. So it was because of him. He taught me stuff, that I never, in my mind, thinking I would go that route, You know, I thought I would be just a regular Joe, just working, 8 hours a day or 40 hours a week or whatever. Like I worked in the mills, just being mill worker, making money what I was able to make. But I never thought of myself like getting into the management field, the salary. That's all him. This was all this dude right here. So I could thank him. Yeah. He left me the legacy, but I never.
Anybody that you would go see today that left a lasting impression on you?
Wow. There's a lot of people in my life. I mean, that
really, really make you think about how you live your life today.
Yeah. I mean, my father-in-law, I've only known him for about 24 years, 22 years, something like that. But the conversations that I've had with him out on a porch, along with, my dad, he kind of took over that role, when my dad passed away.
Mm.
And, my dad, was very fortunate to have my dad, until 2017. But after that, these last 10 years, I think I've learned more by sitting on a porch with a glass of bourbon and a cigar, then I don't know if I really wanted to. I don't think he knows it. I know he knows I value him, the conversations that we have. But you've met my father-in-law, Matt, and I don't know, Vito, if you have or you haven't.
No, I haven't.
But, a guy that been through a lot. He his first marriage, he had 3 kids, which included my wife, and lost his wife when he had a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and an 18-month-old, and lost it to a drunk driver. And he got remarried, a couple years later, took on 2 new kids as stepkids. Obviously a different role for him, but really was nothing more than a protector and a provider for his family. And the conversations that you hear, he lived probably the same type of life that your father lived, down in the mills, knowing what was going on, knowing what happened in Youngstown, with the mob, and hearing some of the stories. I could sit out there for days and listen to what he has to say. But the best thing I think I've learned from him is, being a father and learning what he lived by, and my wife can attest to what he did, is kind of some of the things that are tools that I've taken from him. It's funny because even now, watching him with his own kids, my wife, she is 58 years old, going to be 58 years old, or 59, she'll be 59 years old next month.
Yeah, be sure.
Yeah. You're going
to pay the price on that one.
My throw in the dart, see where it sticks.
My brother-in-law, which is just turned 60, and my other brother-in-law, which is, 55, 56.
They're mine.
Yeah,
Close to my age.
Yeah. And the one thing he always told me, which I'll never forget, he goes, I'll have the conversation with you and I'll give you my advice once. Because the way I raised my kids, I gave them every single tool that when they go down the end of the driveway, they don't have to look back. And that's really stuck in my head,
That's the way they were raised.
But yeah, absolutely. Absolutely it was. But at the same time, it makes you think a little bit, am I doing enough? Am I raising my child right? Am I giving my kid not a set of boundaries, but a set of guidelines or a playbook that if they use it the right way, they can go out and make their own contributions to society. And once again, upping, what my wife and I have done in our lifespan here, he can try to better what he's trying to do.
See, I feel like the guy I was talking about, that what he did for me, I want to be like that, but I'm not. See, at this point, like if I was him and I had some kid come in my class and he was giving me trouble all the time, I'm gonna be like, get this kid out of here.
I'll be the same.
Remember, you wanted to be Santa Claus. Right, you got that hurt.
But I'm not going to put the time into it like he did. Like he put the time in
right
to make me a better person. He knew to just stay the course. I want to be that way. See, that's a legacy to me. Like, I want to be like that, but I can't right now. I think as I'm getting older, maybe I could.
But see, I'm like that. I'm like what this guy does, because I talk to, like, the young kids, and I tell them about, how to invest. I says, like I told them, can you spare $100 for a month? I says, $100. And I
Do you
and I told
realize
them
how boring that is to some people, though?
Yeah, but you know
Investing?
what?
I wish it wasn't boring for me when I was younger. But that's
you know
boring.
what?
It's a
But
boring
here's the
topic for
thing.
somebody
I
who-
learned this after. He didn't tell me this part, but he gave me the knowledge to look at stuff like that.
Mhm.
And here's the thing.
But
If
how old were you? How old were you when you learned that?
I was 23,
23.
24 years old.
23, 24 years old. Once again, we go back to just different times, right?
Yeah.
Now, 23, 24 years old, I can tell you what I was doing. I was screwing around working for Budweiser. Didn't even know what a 401k was. I was making great money. I thought, you know what? The best thing for me to do, I'll be out 23, 24 years old. I wasn't even thinking about a house. I wasn't thinking about getting married. I was worried about what my next flight was out, what next state was I going to, living out of hotels, eating room service, and doing all kinds of things.
But you know what? I'm going to tell you something. At that age, and this I'll never forget, I accumulated $47,000 at 22, 23 years old. And I showed it to my father. He goes, "Where'd you get that money from?" I said, "I invested." "What do you mean you invest?" He didn't believe me,
Mm-hmm.
because then I told him about this John Christen. I said, he showed me how to invest, and I ended up putting money in the bank, and I ended up accumulating that kind of money. And that's where I could be real thankful to that guy right there, because I don't think I would be where I'm at today because of him.
Mm.
I mean, my dad showed me, but not on this guy's level.
Right.
This guy level was like, put it over to the top, where I was able to live a pretty good, I wouldn't say extravagant, but a pretty comfortable lifestyle through the years.
Right.
Like we talked about on previous episodes, like, Dad said, save, 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 which I did, but I was like, man, I'm not having no fun here. Well, I end up listening to this guy. I start, maintaining my finances like what he showed me. Oh, now I'm able to go. I was going back and forth to Europe every year, every other year. I was going back and forth to Italy. My mom and dad was like this to me: "Where are you getting the money to do this?" Well, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
And I drove nice cars. I went on good vacations. I dressed up to the nines. To the nines, that means dressed up really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I spared no expense because I wanted to look good.
So let's get into the now. What do you think, if you had to say, what are you building now as a legacy? If you thought you were building anything now, what do you think you're building now?
Nothing. Really, I'm not. It's because of the disappointments that I got through in life right here with the kids. It's a huge discussion there. I don't really want to go deep into the personal aspects, but
so what would you want people to say about you when you're gone? If you left this earth today, what would you want people to say about you now?
that Vito was a funny guy that enjoyed life and cared for others, which I do. Listen, through the years to I reach now, you can ask my wife. Every time we go to a restaurant, I pick the tab. I always look around in a restaurant. If I see like an elderly couple, I'm not saying maybe they couldn't afford it or anything. I just look at the elderly couple. I says, you know what? I think it would be a nice gesture. And I'll pay for their tab. All the time I do that. All the time I've done that. And then previous jobs, when I was working at Brentwood, remember there?
Mm-hmm.
Pill Factory? Dude, I know him now. He calls me all the time. His name is Darren Stewart. and black guy, cocky, mouthy. I mean, you wouldn't want to talk to him, but I did. You know, we were on a level that we.
So you left an impression on him.
Oh yeah, you know
He wants
why?
to call you.
Because he was talking to somebody, and I overheard, and he was struggling. So I went up to him. I'm like this, hey, you need help? He looked at me like I had two heads. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, yeah, I just heard you talking. I said, you need some help? He goes, what? I said, do you need help? I'll help you. He goes on. I go, what do you need help with? He goes, well, I need $500. I don't know how I'm going to get it. I said, when do you need it? He goes, I got to have it by tonight. I said, all right, where can I meet you? I gave him $500 out of the clear blue. I didn't know this dude from squat. I said, this guy's going to screw me over. And I gave him money. This guy, every time he calls me, he goes like this, you know what? You're the best thing that ever happened to me. He goes, you're like an angel came from heaven. He goes, I go, no, you know, I said, he goes, no. He goes, I don't know anybody that went out of their way to help me the way you did. You just plain asked me, do you need help? And he goes, to this day, I still couldn't figure out how you could do that. When
Okay,
you
so
didn't even know me.
you're leaving something. You're leaving something on somebody. What about you, Kev?
I think for me, it's kind of, and I got two. I think God-fearing and true friend. You know, being a true friend. You know, there's the old adage that I got from my grandfather that you're going to be able to count the number of true friends that you have on one hand in life, and I really truly believe that. And you know, a true friend. I told you guys, I mean, a true friend is somebody, you know, you're broke down 2 hours away, you know, and you can call me anytime and I'd be there for you.
That's for sure.
Not once.
But
the other one was a lot closer.
no, but no, I mean, that's my take on it. But also being God-fearing, you know, my family, we've really been, you know, faithful to what we do. And, you know, I know we don't want to really talk about religion and stuff like that, but, you know, the experience I had, if it wasn't for me being God-fearing, my son wouldn't be here today, and probably my wife wouldn't be here, for the simple fact that we did have a traumatic birth and I lost both of them. Being in a room at the hospital and seeing your own wife flatline and seeing your child that you don't know if it's a boy or a girl that hasn't come out yet flatline in a matter of an hour and a half, it was really scary. So it really sticks in my head that I said,
an impression.
I said, you really have to, like I said, and I know it sounds old and cliche, but truly trying to live life between the dash is what I really am trying to do right now. And there's ups and downs, there's goods and bads, there's happy moments, there's sad moments, but it's what you learn from that and you build upon to try to live life to its fullest, right? I mean, that's the only way that you can live life. And it involves taking risks, some that you might like the outcome, some you might not. But I think that's what I'm working on right now is those two things.
I think for me, I think it's that I didn't stay the same and that I continue to work for something. I think you guys know me. You see when I go after something, I mean, here we are sitting here, doing this podcast. I went after it. I said, hey, let's do it.
Not only small, you go large.
Yeah, I go after it. But I don't. I think you got to go after things and try and make them happen and give it a fair shake and see where it goes. Mm-hmm. I have no expectation.
But I got to admit
this
one
show.
thing.
I have no expectation that this show goes anywhere. But if it does, it's going to have to come from our audience. Mm-hmm. We need you to support us. We'll give you the content, but we need the support. And I did all this with just to do this with the three of us and just have some fun.
Yeah.
If it goes anywhere, great. If it doesn't, if there's 10 people out there, 30 people out there that we work with that even say, hey, I I like your show. I love your show. I can't wait till
We've
the
been
next one
getting
comes
good
out.
response.
That's enough for me.
Oh yeah.
But I go after something.
But I gotta admit one thing. I do have to thank both of you guys. Yeah, because I've drank bourbon longer than both of you guys put together. But you guys got into collecting bourbon, and I got hit with that bug. Seriously, I mean, I didn't have no knowledge of how all that bourbon was, all the types of, had no clue. Clueless.
Thinking where that could go as a legacy. If I were to pass away today, everything I got sitting upstairs.
But I did. When you say legacy, guess what? My nephew is doing the same thing. So he picked up the bug. He heard, he heard that I was doing it, and now he's doing it.
But like I'm saying, like if I were to pass away today, my wife's probably not going to keep that bourbon. She's going to probably want to give it to
Oh,
you
my
guys.
wife would sell
So-
mine.
So then you take it,
She put it on
and
the
that
market.
sits on your shelf, and you know where you got that. If you if you live longer than
Memories.
me, yeah,
Memories. My wife attested to that.
yeah.
Remember looking at the
Oh,
sunset?
sunset, sunrises. Yeah, we definitely did that. Picking up the bourbon, but yeah, is legacy something you build on purpose, or does it just happen as a result and how you live?
I think it's influenced. I think you build a legacy based on influence in life. I do. I seriously do. Because like I told you before earlier in this podcast, I idolized my father. I put him so high on a pedestal because of what he's done. It's just remarkable. And I always thought, oh, I would like to do something like that someday. I never did. But you know what? He grew up in the times that were tough. You figure Depression, World War I, World War II, Korean War, all that stuff. And then all the crap that was happening down in South America too. He told me, he says that down there, when the Italians was coming in like flood water into Venezuela, the Venezuelans didn't like the Italians over there. So there was a lot of animosity there too. And no different than my relatives up in Canada. When the floodgates happened up there in Canada, the Canadians didn't like all those Italians coming in. They hated them. Just the same thing like the Italians coming over here to the United States. We were considered the lowest of the totem pole. The only jobs that we were getting around here was digging ditches. Not me personally, but my dad did that. My dad did that kind of crap here and was mistreated. But the point is like, yeah, he left that legacy to me is believe in yourself, work hard, and better yourself than others. And I told you that story like when I was in North Star Still when I was working. I had two guys, Brian Hobart, super nice dude, Kenny Jackson, two black guys. They were on my crew. Well, Kenny Jackson was the type of guy that believed in Farrakhan and all those guys, the black movement and all that stuff, that he felt that everybody, that you owe them. The other one, he was a realist. I said, where are you coming from? I said, man, I come from another country. I built myself up. I put myself through school. I bought myself a house. I said, I'm doing good. I got money in the bank. I live in a good life. I drive nice vehicles. I go on vacation. You were born here. You should be doing better than me. That's where my dad comes in. Like he said, you better yourself, which I did. I follow that legacy.
So, Kev, what do you think? It's built on purpose, or is it naturally happen?
Well, once again, not to get too religion based, but I just feel that only one person knows your plan in life.
Oh, wow.
It's not you. That's just my belief, and we're all put here for a purpose to live out our purpose the best that we can with the tools that are given. And I think that there's, I mean, you're right that there's influence, but there's also choice. It's your choice whether you want to follow that path or you don't want to follow that path. And I think, the big man upstairs puts us on many different paths in lives, as trials to see and test.
It's true.
And what we're suited for. And I think the options that are given to us in our lifetime, whether we choose to pursue them or we don't choose to pursue them, are, I would say, more than 50% of our legacy. Because there's things that I believe that are, supernatural, that things happen for a reason. And we don't know when or where or how or why. We don't know that. So, and I just think it's a bigger plan that unfolds for us. And when we make that choice to follow that one particular path, I think that's where the whole legacy thing comes in and what you want to be remembered for. And sometimes it happens at an early age. Sometimes it happens in our middle ages, and sometimes it don't even happen at all.
I think it starts natural,
Yeah.
but at some point you choose it. I think you get into a passion and you start to feel the influence that you're having over people and what it is that you're doing. And then I think at some point you choose that path to go down. I don't know if I'm there yet. I do a lot of things. But if I were to pass away today, I don't know what people are going to say about me. I don't know what my legacy might not come to be talked about until 10, 15 years after I've been gone.
Yeah, but I believe what he said. God put us in a place for a certain reason. Just like I don't have two younger brothers. Man, you guys are like brothers to me. You're like two younger brothers I never had. And you guys don't got older brothers. I'm kind of like your older brother.
Mm-hmm.
So, basically, we're here for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
and you think about it. I mean, we talk to one another like family,
Mm-hmm.
if you really think about it. And so I'm leaving an impression on both of you guys, and both of you guys are leaving impressions on me. So
and now we're leaving impressions on
Other
whoever's
people.
watching.
Oh yeah.
If we didn't know each other, the likelihood of us sitting at a table today
Oh, I would have never
doing a podcast and putting our perspectives out there probably wouldn't be happening.
Never thought in a million years I'd be doing this.
Well,
Seriously,
I'll be
never.
honest. When I pitched the issue to you guys, I thought you'd be the one to say no. I thought he'd be the one. I thought Kevin would be like, "Oh yeah," and I thought you'd be, I don't want to do that.
I was intimidated. Seriously, the first one, I was intimidated.
Oh,
I was like, oh man. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to talk right. I don't know if I'm going to use proper English. I was
But
like,
now somebody's out there watching that was like you,
oh,
and I don't know. But you know what? Now they're listening to you. Like, if he can do it, I can do it.
oh, hey, that's the legacy.
Yeah. So it's like I said, I think it starts natural, but then at some point you choose it. But I don't think I'm there just yet.
No, I'm the farthest thing from it. Being the youngest one, I know I'm the farthest thing from it. And in the sense that, there's things that I've gone through in my life that, I mean, probably would not compare to some of the other things that other people have gone through in life. But the one thing is when you share your life story or whatever it is that you choose to share about your life, right? You figure there's billions of people in this world that, even if it's just one, that has something in common with you and that you can use your experience to help them through something, you've done your job, right?
Oh,
And I think that's where I'm at right now, where if it's just 1, 2, 10, that's what we're doing right now. We're on a channel that how many people, if you were to guess, how many people see or get on this channel every single day? There's millions and billions of people that do that. If it wouldn't, it would have influenced you to do it if you didn't see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And You probably
Looked
knew.
like fun.
Yep,
Looked like fun.
You knew a little bit about it because you.
None.
But you've used YouTube probably to learn how to fix something.
Oh, you've been on it.
No. Seriously, no. I never YouTubed.
You've never YouTubed on how to do something.
No.
No.
I would call somebody, if there was something that I'm not sure of, I'll just there's somebody I would know I think that could do that. And then I would ask them. I never used YouTube until I say recently, but basically I used YouTube is to see movies.
Not to be influenced, to just see a movie.
See a movie, because you know what? It goes back to, like I keep on saying, my Italian heritage. I like to see Italian flicks, and you can't find them. There's no, you can't find Italian movies. You have to go on YouTube and, oh man, there's a list of, Netflix got it now. Netflix, you go and you say, hey, Italian movies, they'll come up just a small portion. But you go on YouTube, lots.
So this sounds like a wind down moment. So let's do a pour.
Hey, this is a spin-off from last time, because younger brother Kevin, and he talked about Peronis. Now, Peronis is Italian beer. It's like have you guys ever drank Heinekens?
Yeah.
Peroni is like on a Heineken level, but to me, I think it's got a better taste, a little bit of a smoother taste, where Heine got more of a bite to it,
It's because it's German, brother.
Yeah, it's like a bite.
It's probably more like a Stella.
Yeah, but I tell you one thing.
I like Stella.
I like Stella.
Peroni. You ever drank Peroni?
I have.
I have never had one.
Oh well, here.
I have never had one. So
let's
why don't you do the honors?
crank them up.
I have not had one.
There's another Italian beer, Moretti, is another one, but it's like that one. I would put that one on a Stella level, the Moretti.
So is the alcohol content in this? Is it just a regular domestic beer, or like Kevin's last week had?
Oh yeah, Kevin's beer was a little bit on woo woo woo.
Fire things up there a little bit.
You're gonna ask me that stuff. I'm like, I don't know. I'm just drink
I
this
don't know
because it's good Italian beer.
That's why I asked. What's it got? I think it's just a regular beer.
I don't know.
5% alcohol by volume.
There you go.
Yeah,
I didn't say, regular beer.
There you go. Nothing bad with that.
Little 5-0.
Never had it. This will be the first time.
All right. Well, let's do our.
What does Nastro Azzurro mean?
Well, azzurro means blue. Azzurro is blue. Nostra, it's our
Peronis.
blue.
Or blue.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
All right. Well, Shandon.
Shandon.
Send on.
All right. Nice. Well,
Yeah, I would say you're right. Got that Heineken feel. I think.
It's got the Heineken smell.
Oh, yeah.
I think the Stella is hitting.
Yeah.
Peronis, huh? Never had it. Never had it.
is it a thumbs up, thumbs down?
It's a thumbs up. I could have 3 or 4 of these.
Yeah.
Sitting on outside by the pool.
That's good. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not expensive.
Is this what you're gonna have for your pool parties?
Well, I want to get that cooler. I want to get that double door cooler for in the fridge. In the garage, so I don't have to run in and out of the house until I get the number 2, phase 2 set up in
Hold
the
on.
backyard.
You're not going to have pool girls?
You mean? I don't think my wife will like that.
You're gonna have to be out of town.
There's the swimmies.
So,
Floaties.
so before we got into the show tonight and we started talking about legacy, did you guys ever really think about legacy in your life prior to us having to actually carry on a
Oh, yeah, I
conversation
did.
for an hour? I really didn't.
I thought of my kind of legacy. No, wait a minute. My thought of a legacy is something I leave behind, not something of a personal nature, meaning me particular, leaving something of me, values or ethnic or stuff. My legacy would be like on a monetary sense, where I'm going to leave behind, for my son, which, well, that ain't happening. I
never
got
know.
a granddaughter.
You never know.
Yeah.
You never know, Vito.
I know.
You say that, but you never know because, once again,
Never know is right.
Life changes.
It does.
Life changes.
It does. And there could be an epiphany that hits that young man harder than he knows. And I pray for you that it does work out and benefits with what's going on in your life.
I got something to say about this episode. Knowing that I'm older than both of you guys, I hope I leave an impression on both of you two.
Oh, you already have.
Yeah. I mean,
you already have. Yeah. And it wasn't. It was long before this show.
Yeah. So I hope that would leave me as a personal person. Being that has nothing to do as far as, like I said, monetary and all that. This is just the personal nature that I leave an impression on you two, because I hang around with you two more than anybody I know. Right. I mean, I got a close friend that I've known since I was 18 years old. I mean, I talk to him once a week, twice a week, but not on our level.
Right.
And just same thing, like when you called me to come up to, where we're working now. I never thought in a million years I'd get a phone call from you.
Well, I
never, in a million years, I never thought you would give me a call. And I was like, and my wife even said, she says, why would he call you?
Like, why did I call him?
Yeah. Why would he call you?
There's probably people at work.
I said, obviously, I left
why did he call him?
Obviously, I left him while we worked at our other job. I must have left a good impression on you.
Well, you did. You helped me out a lot.
Here comes our baby brother. And Kevin, when you came there, me and you, I think just like we clicked like real quick.
I think if there's a message to say to anybody who's watching this, if anybody in your life has left an impression upon you, like a legacy or something like that, and they're still alive, don't wait to
right. Tell them now.
Go tell them. Maybe it rekindles a relationship that you gave up on, or you wished you didn't give up on, and here's an opportunity to just say, hey, I've watched this podcast, these three guys, and they really encouraged me and moved me to come and tell you what you've really done for me.
I got to look, see if that guy's still alive. Because you know what? I've been playing with the notion of to look him up to see if he's still around. Because that guy really left a huge impression on me, because I tell you one thing, the stuff that he taught me was unreal. I mean, this guy had a knack to make money. This guy, when he came into my life, I was in my 20s. He had to be like late 40s, mid 40s, something like that. I mean, this guy was driving freaking Oldsmobile Tornado. He was dressed to the hill. I mean, he had nice suits on all the time. He was dressed up real nice. And I mean, this guy, he just talked business like it was nothing. I mean, I said, this guy, man, he's got his shit together. And he showed me his house. I was like, God damn, he lived in Hermitage. And I was like, wow. I mean,
Kev, you got a message?
Hey, I couldn't agree more. If they're still here and you know about them, take that time. I mean, it doesn't take more than 5 minutes to go tell somebody how much you appreciate they've done for you in your life, because there's going to be a time where you're not going to be able to say it. And there's a lot of people in our lives that I know we could have the woulda, coulda, shouldas. I know mine was with my dad. And my dad called me at 3:00 in the morning. It's actually my brother. And it was probably 4 days before he passed. And, my dad said to me, he goes, I just want you to know, Dad, or want you to know, Kevin, I'm proud of you. I want you to know that you're a good father. I want you to know that, you're a good husband. And I told my dad that I really never told my dad I loved him when I was growing up. Hardest thing. And
Yeah, but that's that generation,
but no,
man.
but my wife even questioned me on it because my wife said, why don't you ever tell your dad that you loved him? And I said, because there was a lot of stuff in my life with my dad that I had a hard time forgiving. But that night, I remember specifically, I told him that I loved him. And I got to tell him I love you one more time. And I think that that kind of still sticks with me, with my son, that I tell him that I love him every time he, goes to school or every time he goes out, and tell him before he goes to bed.
I do that now, but growing up, their notion of saying "I love you," hey, you need money, or are you hungry? You want me to make you a plate of food? They didn't grow up that way. That showing that that affection and stuff like that. They didn't grow up. I never saw my mom and dad kiss. Never. But it's like they were, very close. My mom and dad, they loved one another. And when my dad passed, it crushed my mother. I mean, it crushed her. But it crushed the whole family. But the point is, they didn't show that, that lovey-dovey, oh, I love you. That wasn't, we didn't grow up that way. We did not. And then, hear me, I'm getting in marriage and stuff like that. And I'm like, I was raised this way. So how confusing is that? And now I'm supposed to be very open and say, and my wife today, she goes, are you having a hard time showing your emotions? I go, we was raised that way.
Well, here's the thing. If anything that we talked about tonight resonates with you, that's great. If there's somebody out there that has left that type of an impression upon you, legacy-wise, yeah, go and have that conversation with them. Let them know, because someday, someone's may come knocking on your door. Your phone may ring, and you least expect it, and it's gonna probably feel pretty good that you had that type of impression on somebody and was able to change the course of their life in one way or another. But this show isn't about being right; it's about being honest. If this feels like a conversation you'd keep listening to, subscribe and stick around. This is Earned Air. Thanks for your time, because time is earned too.